Okay, so I'm going to present my work in Zhengzhou University School of Pharmaceutical Sciences. About Zhengzhou University. It's a university in my hometown. Zhengzhou is the capital of Woodlands province and is one of the oldest schools in Zhengzhou with most majors of the university in China. And the School of Pharmaceutical Sciences train the graduate pharmacists and has a lot of research going on for cancers and cardiovascular diseases. So here are the branches of the School of Pharmacy. So first, pharmaceutical chemistry, which focus on the synthesis and the composition of chemical compounds to create new drugs. Pharmaceutical analysis is focused on the method to use for determination of the quality and quantity of the products, as well as the safety of the product. And pharmacognosy is the study focused on the extraction from natural sources like plants. Microbial and biochemical pharmacy is literally just disciplines from microbiology and biochemistry. So where I worked at the School of Pharmacy is the branch of pharmacology, the branch of medicine, concern, and the use of effects and modes of drugs. So what do I do as a lab assistant is first research. There are a lot of researches going on, and they focus on the transgenic mice modeling. There is also the mouse colony maintenance and organization, for sure. They just taking care of the research using animals. And also other general works like preparing the solutions and sterilization, etc. So one advantage of being a high school student is there's no exploitation, because I've seen my undergraduate colleagues were asked to buy lunch, clean restrooms, and also as well as shoulder massage without tips. So this is a typical research I think I should present. It's the influence of peroxyredoxin 2 on the systolic function by changing PL level. So before I explain this research, I explain some few terms. First, it's a peroxyredoxin. It's called PRX, and it's a family of antioxidant enzymes. It induces the peroxide levels and thereby mediate the signal transduction. So in human body, there are 1 to 6 with peroxyredoxin 2 as the most abundant. And it's the most abundant proteins in the erythrocytes after hemoglobin. And from previous researches, we found out that mice lack of peroxyredoxin 2 usually develops hematopoietic ammonia. So the second term is phospholamban, PLN or PLB. It's a protein in humans encoded by the PLN gene. And it's a 52 amino acid integral membrane protein that regulates the calcium pump in the cardiac muscle cells. So this research is one important research in the cardiovascular diseases for understanding the peroxyredoxin levels. So maybe in the biology class you have extract DNA from plants and maybe strawberries, as we did in the Woodlands prep. So do you know how to extract DNA from mice? The answer is you cut the tail and then you practice DNA isolation. So here are the procedures about extracting DNA from mice. The purpose of doing it is to filtering and characterizing the transgenic mice. So Langendorf experiment. This is an important in vitro preparation used in pharmacological and physiological research using animals. It's a very convenient device to use because it's prevent without the complication in vivo experiments like dealing with neuronal and hormonal effects. Like you have to consider the gender and the neuronal changes in the mice because they are alive and a lot of things are going on. So the procedures you have to sever the heart of the mice, and then you perfuse it in a reverse fashion via the aorta, usually within a nutrient-rich and oxygenated solution. So the backward pressure causes the aortic valve to shut and forcing the solution into the coronary vessels, which normally supply the heart with blood. So these nutrients supply the heart to continue beating several hours after its removal, so it can beat in the solution. And researchers can take the measurement of the contractile levels, which directly observe the drug's effect. So the goal of this research is to find out what is the relation between PRX2 and PLN, and in what extent does PRX2 control the systolic function. The process, we use restriction enzyme digestion to build transgenic carriers of muscle-specific promoters. And those carriers, the transgenes, are alpha-myosin heavy chain gene and PRX2, cDNA, and HGH poly-A. So after DNA analysis confirmed, we breed the mice. From after the carriers is inserted to the zygote. So that's probably the specific things you did in the genetic engineering institutions that college has to pay them for that. We don't have the technology. But anyway, after breeding those transgenic mice, we extract the DNA and use PCR with Western blotting and Langendorf experiment to take the measurements and observe the effect. So the result compares to wild-type control group. Those transgenic mice has PRX2 expression 1.9 to 2.5 times higher. LVSP, left ventricular systolic pressure, reduced to 36%, but the heart weight to body weight ratio and the PLN level had no obvious changes. But the PLN-CR16 has expression reduced to the 47%. So the conclusion will be that peroxyredoxin 2 participates in the regulation and restraint of systolic function, and its molecular mechanism relates to the change of phospholamban. So another important work that I do is the mice colony maintenance and organization. So there are I'm going to explain some strains that are commonly used in lab research. The first one is CYP57. These are very common type, and they have dark brown and nearly black coat. They are small sized and sensitive to odors and noise. So we have to take specific care for them. And one fun thing to mention is they are very notorious for barbling, which means the dominant mice will selectively remove hairs from their cage mate. So yeah, they are sensitive to pain and to cold. They have certain characteristics, make them useful for some researchers but inappropriate to others. And they will drink alcoholic beverage voluntarily. And they are more susceptible than average to morphine addictions, atherosclerosis, and age-related hearing loss. So another type is BALBC. This is which a lot of albino substrains are derived. It's an albino laboratory-bred strain and widely used inbred strain. Inbreeding, it means producing of offspring by making those individuals as related, genetically related close together. And in the cardiovascular research, they are commonly used for their high levels of anxiety and for being relatively resistant to diet-induced atherosclerosis. They are docile and they have a long reproductive lifespan. So there are other two, they all albinos. And KM, which means Kunming mice, is very commonly used in China, and it's originated from Swiss Webster mice, and they are relatively cheap. ICRs and Albred, they are very similar to BALBC, but they are Albred. So those SD rats is big rats, and an outbred multi-purpose breed of albino rats. They are famous for their calmness and ease of handling. They were first introduced by the Sprague Dolly Farms, which later became a animal company in Madison, Wisconsin. They are relatively big, with average adult litter size of 10.5, and females weigh around 250 to 300 grams, male 450 to 520 grams. So that's around 1 pound. So College of Pharmacy, as I mentioned, they purchase well-typed mice regularly, and they pay institution that does genetic engineering to do the transgenic procedures. Also, this commonly used model create a on-campus employment that's a lab assistant. So professors would hire undergraduate students and some students to take care of these mice in animal center. But one thing about animal center is it smells stink. So it's like the Montgomery Animal Shelter. But one fun thing to mention is it's one of the rooms that has constant air conditioning throughout the year. Actually, the air conditioner was broken when I was working, and it got fixed the last 2 days. I was in the laboratory. So here is my schedule in the animal room. Usually sterilization happens on Tuesday, around you have to wait for 3 hours. And Wednesday is all the switching of beddings, feed, and water cages happen. Usually it takes around 3 to 4 hours. So handling the mice is a breathtaking procedure. Mice easily bite, no matter what strain they are. They got angry or they feel threatened, they'll bite. So handling the mice, if you want to pick it up, you have to rub the tip of its tail very gently. And also, they are always mice mother with your little babies. You have to take certain care because if they feel threatened, they will eat the babies. So for handling the mice, we have to take the weight of mice regularly, and before doing that, we score their body based on the scale. So that's based on how prominent their bones is. Usually number 4 is ideal condition, and obese really happens in summer because at this moment they will lose appetite to eat anything. But fun thing to mention is I found one ICR that weighs 60 grams, and that's 50% of obese. That's usual. So I don't know how that happened. So handling the mice, the other thing is to identify them. A lot of mice look similar, and you can't really distinguish them because there are 50 cages of mice with 4 to 6 in each cage. There are a lot of ways to identify them, but 2 ways that we commonly use is the cage card and also the air pumping. Here's a common format for the cage cards. It's used to identify groups of mice on protocols where individual identities is not necessary, which is not true because we have to identify each individual in order to take data. So here is the air punching. We punch the air with air punching on the mice, and we mark those punchings at different numbers and write them down when we record the data. Different places have different systems, but all the purpose is identify individual mice. And if there are certain characteristics like a gray hair, which means the mix of albino and the black, like C55, you don't have to punch them because you can easily identify within the cage. So here comes my favorite equipment, Bevel 2100 visual sonics. It's ultrasonic for small animals, and they are really expensive. One price I found online was $500,000 with a coupon. Yes. the way to use it is similar to the one used in hospital for human. You take ultrasonics, and they have a lot of functions. Usually used in vivo experiments, and my mentor told me one reason it's so expensive because it doesn't require killing the mice. So as I mentioned the Langendorf experiments, which is an in vitro technique that you have to kill the mice. So for this one, in order to do the ultrasonics for the mice, you have to remove the hair from the chest each time before you do it. And then you set up an equipment that's for blowing the anesthetics into a tube, and you let the mice inhale it. That causes a short period of anesthesia. But mice are smart. And I noticed when I press their head into the tube, they will stop breathing immediately for some seconds, and until they cannot bear the lack of oxygen and start to inhale again, which accomplished the purpose of doing it. And so after applying the gel, I can take data from this visual-sonics. They are used commonly for taking B-mode, M-mode, tissue Doppler imaging, advanced cardiovascular measurements. And here are list of functions. So the most difficult parts for me is to see some procedures dealing with mice. As you see, the Langendorf preparation requires killing of the animals and remove their heart. Also, I assist secting the heart with a semi-automatic microsome, which you can sect the heart into less than 1 micrometer slide. And also, extracting the DNA requires cutting the tip of the tail of the mice. My hardest time was watching the undergraduate students dealing with mice by extracting the blood from the eye socket, removing the whole eyeball. But I also found out that there are students that want to leave the lab earlier. They did it without the mice being fully in the planning, the surgical plans. So, which means they didn't apply enough anesthesia, or it's not they did not wait the time until the time is done. So I reported to the professor, and she was really mad at them. Also, I found out the students, they squeeze mice so tight that usually mice did not die for lack of blood. They died because they choked to death. And so the professor got really mad, but she said, although the students did not follow the procedures, it's a common practice in undergraduate school that they have to learn how to extract the blood from the socket. But when I did some research on that, it said extracting the blood from the socket is not a common practice, but rather the orbital sinus bleeding is more efficient and without being terminal. So here's a quote. In modern society, animal experimentations are a right attribute to competent researchers who can ensure human care and use animals in controlled environments, with as little discomfort as possible to the living animal, of mice and ethics. So I could not judge the ethic of using the lab research animals, but I want to remind myself and everyone who want to go to research and later dealing with lab using animals, the one thing to avoid animal cruelty is to strictly follow the instructions and respect their life and contribution to science exploration. So yeah, another personal anecdote, I went to the chemical lab after my work was done, and I stayed there for 3 days. There are only 3 people in the lab, and I made friends with them, and they are really fun. So one student is a doctor, Dr. Kai. He said always in an innocent voice that I want to be a scientist, and he keeps saying I want to be a scientist. And other things that are interesting was in the summer it's really hot and no air conditioning. So this chemistry student spray ethanol on their skin to reduce the heat, and remind each other, don't be drunk. Other fun thing is eating watermelon during break with them, and hearing them discuss how many watermelons they can afford after selling their new made product. Because school allowed them, the government gave some subsidies for the student researchers, but they are not enough, so they have to think a way to make livings. So here, thank you.